Hello everybody, Maven here, and in this video we'll be testing the Season 19 mid-season Sandbox changes that were announced in the January 19th TWAB. The changes went live this week and we'll be testing the before and after the nerf/buffs to see how they were versus how they are now and compare them. So let's get to the testing. Hope you enjoy. So we're going to start things off here with the DMT. Now the DMT got a plethora of changes for both PvE and PvP, so we're going to be testing the hip fire at long distances change. It should be harder to hit your shots. And then we're also testing the cranial spike damage because they removed the damage penalty for having 5 stacks of cranial spike for both PvE and PvP. So let's try it out. So we're starting with PvE here, hitting 12k to the crit, but after the buff they removed the penalty and now we're hitting 15k to the crit. So a DMT with 4 times a charm might be a pretty high damaging PvE primary option. And for PvP it's pretty self-explanatory, but instead of getting the penalty we now just hit 80 to the head, always. And for the final DMT test, there was a lot of changes to the hip fire, cone, scalers, and stuff like that, so it's harder to hit your shots at longer range. And after trying it myself here in this clip, it was definitely a lot harder to hit those long distance hip fire headshots after the nerf. Next up is the Dead Messenger. They reduced the wave splash damage against players by 35%. So before the nerf we're hitting 131, after the nerf we're hitting 85. That is a massive, massive nerf. However, you can still do the Arc Warlock cheese because Lightning Surge alone does a ton of damage. However, you're better off just using any other waveframe. Next up is the Revoker. This was the dominant force of comp because you were allowed to use sunset weapons. There was no power difference. So now it triggers Reversal of Fortune on 2 misses within 6 seconds instead of just triggering after 1 shot. Next up, they increased the zoom from 13 to 14 on the Forensic Nightmare. This was an oversight by Bungie. This is something they meant to do back when they buffed SMGs, but they forgot the Forensic Nightmare, so they're just making the change. Now in this clip, I'm not using a god roll by any means, but just for the sake of testing, with the roll that I got, we are hitting max damage at 17 meters. After the buff, we're hitting 19 meters, so give or take 2 extra meters of range. Next up is the Battler. Now they did reduce some of the aim assist values as well, but they also reduced the zoom from 20 down to 18. So before the nerf, we're hitting max damage at 41 meters, and after the nerf, we're hitting 36 meters. So that is a huge drop off, and also with the aim assist drop off on top of that, Battler is definitely not going to be what it used to be. People will still use it, but I think there are better options now. And now on to the Citan's Ramparts. When you have them equipped, your class ability energy is going to cool down 70% slower, and also players are going to deal 25% extra damage to your Citan's Barricade. And on top of that, there was another TWAB note that said that all of the Titan's class abilities are going to be slowed down by 20%. So Citan's is slowed down by 70% on top of the extra 20%. So on to the test here, popping the barricades at the same time. Before the nerf, when you get your Citan's charged back, post-nerf is only at about 50%. So you're going to see 50% less Citan's walls. That is going to be a huge improvement. And now onto the damage testing, starting with high impact pulse rifles such as the Messenger or No Time to Explain. We're killing the Citan's Barricade pre-nerf in 7 shots. After the nerf, 5 shots. Big improvement. Next up is the DMT, pre-nerf killing the Barricade in 8 shots, post-nerf 6 shots. Again, 2 less shots, same as the high impact pulse rifles. Next up is the Vele's X because it has Hawkeye Breach armaments, which lets you do more damage to barricades. Pre-nerf, 5 shots. Post-nerf, 4 shots. Next up is a Touch of Thunderstorm grenade. They reduced the secondary strike damage from 40 down to 30. They also made it roam slower. I didn't record a test for the roaming, but in my experience, it's pretty much the same thing. And now on to the testing. Post-nerf, it does take 1 more tick of lightning to kill you. However, it's only just a fraction slower. So it really isn't that much of a nerf. Next up are the adaptive frame SMGs. Bungie felt that they were lagging behind lightweights such as the multi-mock because they weren't as rewarding. So to remedy this, they increased the crit multiplier. They very slightly upped the crit damage. Onto the testing here though, post-nerf and pre-nerf, they both do 17 damage. However, the way that Crucible works is there are fraction numbers that you don't see because obviously a damage number is not going to pop up that says like 17.4, you know, so there is a fraction there. It's invisible to us, but it probably does do more damage. I didn't do a test though to see if it kills in 1 less shot. I should have done that, but it does appear the same. But it's a bit more obvious in PvE because before the buff we're hitting 1256, after the buff 1307. So it might actually be worth it to farm for a Pizzicato with Ambitious Assassin and Swashbuckler. So that is going to do it for all of the testing, and on to my final thoughts for today. I gotta say, Forensic Nightmare, still trash. Battler, it's still going to be good. People will still use it, but it's going to be a little bit more fightable now. Dead Messenger, officially dead. Revoker, nobody's going to use it anymore. Citans will still see play, but not nearly as much as it used to. Storm Grenades, still OP. DMT is going to be a pretty good PvE weapon now. Get yourself a roll with 4th times the charm. In PvP, I still believe people will use it. And for adaptive frame SMGs, I think they might actually be pretty dang solid. In my opinion, I think they might be the new meta. If you're not a 0.01% player who's going to hit every single crit with their multi-mock, then I would recommend using an adaptive frame because they do more damage to the body, and also they do pretty decent crit damage now as well. So I think they're going to be a lot more forgiving on that TTK. So when Iron Banner comes back around, get yourself a good Hero's Burden, or whenever you have Umbrals, just focus Suros weapons at the helm at the star chart, get yourself a good pizzicato. And on that, I think you're looking for Perpetual Motion Rangefinder. So that is going to do for the video, a little bit of a shorter one, but nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. Even though it was a shorter video, it still took a lot of work in editing, so if you want to help give back, the best way is to drop a like and a comment, because that interaction on the video really helps the algorithm and the video's performance. And if you are new here, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. See you later.